In less than a year, I went from making beats in my parents' garage to running on stage at the Brooklyn Mirage. Here's how I did it. I know it sounds a bit ridiculous when I put it like that, but trust me, the story is just as insane. About 5 years ago, I started teaching myself how to produce on Ableton. I was in my first year of college, and I didn't really have that much to do. So I was just kind of making beats a bunch, and they were terrible. At some point during college, I think my second year, I was introduced to a man by the name of Marcus. We'll call him Mark for the sake of this story. He's very important, so remember it. By this time, I had started releasing music under the name Jev, which is really just a combination of my first name and beginning of my last name. It was a great name to choose because no other artist in the entire industry has my name. Mark and I ended up being roommates our third year. And off the bat, I could tell that we had really similar interests. Like, he was into graphic design. I was into hanging out with cool people at cool parties. He was into staying home and, going on Reddit. And I was into going to the bar and making money. Anyways, we continued working on Jev all throughout college. Our only fans were my parents, my friends, myself. I think I was the top listener for myself my first year of releasing music, which is pretty embarrassing, but I feel like most artists are the same way. And I still listen to a ton of my music.
And then college came to an end. That was the end of college. Those two are the same thing. And then all of a sudden I live in Sonoma County, which is a beautiful county. Not a ton of young people there, but my parents live there, so that's where I moved back to. And Mark moved back to a close location, luckily, so we were spending a lot of time together.
So picture this: a mini fridge stocked by your parents, filled with hoppy, local, prestige IPA, and a monitor that streams Minecraft. It was Evan. While we were home, we had all this free time, and we decided to kind of invest even more of our free time, which was all the time, into Jev, into the artist project. But people were not listening yet. That's something you have to keep in mind throughout this whole thing. That is, besides the people we were actually literally paying to listen to it, because that was one of our first strategies, was we would pay influencers, Twitch streamers. We got scammed once by this guy pretending to be Fat Joe, which is pretty embarrassing, but that was where we were at. Yeah, anyways, check Reddit if Fat Joe does DM you. It's probably not Fat Joe. But we were bored. This was a thing that was happening, and we couldn't avoid it. So we decided to hunker down in my parents' garage and start working on a project, a musical project, with a visual and sonic identity. Sonical? Sonic. At this point, the rent of $0, the free food, and love from my family members was growing tiresome. So it was time to move to New York City. A lot of people, since I'm a musician, had been telling me, urging me, pulling me to come to LA. My beautiful, smoking hot girlfriend had just moved to New York City, and she was beckoning me by FaceTime to join her in her adventure. And since I'm an aimless loser, Mark decides to come too, because I don't know. Why'd you come to New York City, Mark?
I'm aimless loser number 2.
Aimless loser number 2. So we are in the plane. Imagine a plane, right? We're in it. And then all of a sudden, before we knew it, Mark and I were in a tiny little shoebox in the Lower East Side, eating rice and beans and trying to trick HelloFresh into sending us more boxes than we were allowed. It was a wonderful time. Simultaneously to that move, Mark and I started working on our biggest project to date, which was a mixtape that we were calling it, called Talk Too Much. That is actually right here, across my hoodie. A mixtape that would go on to be the greatest piece of music ever released. It was literally releasing while we were getting on the plane to come to New York City. So I don't know why the hell we planned it that way or how we thought that made sense, but I remember the music was literally coming out on the day we were flying. So that's where we were at. The project comes out in its entirety, And Mark and I wait a little while to see if like Obama would call me or something to say congrats. He did not.
Hey, Jeff.
Still time for that though. I kind of wish there was like, and then everything changed in this moment. But it didn't really work out that way for me. There were little things here and there, and they kind of built on each other. So it was a gradual sort of build in audience and opportunity. At this point now, Mark and I both have jobs at restaurants. His was much fancier than mine. He had to wear a suit and tie. He was a host. I was also a host. Shout out male hosts. Holding it down, holding the restaurant industry down. People actually started listening though. So we were getting DMs, messages from people from Australia. I remember one from Japan, like India. We had someone actually from India call us once on FaceTime. That was really not awkward at all, and I would do it again. And then one lovely summer day, I wake up in my little 3 feet by 3 foot apartment in Lower East Side in a pool of my own sweat. I checked my phone to see that Dreamer, the hit single off of Talk Too Much, had been added to a Spotify editorial. Creamy. It was a big deal. This actually had me pretty hyped though, because that was kind of a big major goal for the project. Was is there a stratus? Is it within the stratosphere? Is that a saying? I think we had the text message thread. I'll just like highlight it here. It's just like probably a bunch of swearing. I don't even really remember what it was, but we were absolutely tweaking about this. We thought it's over. Like I'm famous and I'm gonna be a billion trillionaire. And it was awesome, yeah. But literally nothing happened from it. That's a lesson though. It's getting on a Spotify editorial is a goal. It's not the goal. So keep that in mind. Around that same time was another, I guess, important moment. A record label, Spinnin' Records, reached out to me and said, hey, Jev, do you want to have a record deal with us? And I said yes. And that was cool. And by this point, like, things were picking up. Like, by no means was I, doing crazy numbers, but, we had 60,000, 70,000 people listening every month, at least once, on Spotify. And that was meant hundreds of thousands of streams and messages. And it was really cool. Like, I don't really know how else to explain it. Like, it was just fun to kind of see that something you just did in your parents' garage like could turn into something that people were actually like, no matter how big or small that group of people is, that they were invested in and interested in. It was very... Now, we had to leave our lovely little shoebox in Lower East Side, and we needed to move to the place you're looking at right now in Brooklyn. And we did. And now we're here. And so we're getting closer to the present now. And I promise this story will be coming to an end soon. And thus my first YouTube video as well. It was in this little Brooklyn apartment that I was called up one day by two men by the name of Kyle and Vinny. They were asking me for pictures of my feet. I said no. And then the second thing they asked me for was if I wanted to go get a drink. And then that I said yes. So we went and got a drink. And turns out they are actually Kyle and Vinny of Hannah Montana and That's So Raven fame. Just kidding. They were on both those shows. It's a really weird sort of earlier part of their life. But now they're probably better known as the dynamic DJ duo Phantom. Anyways, when I got a drink with them, they asked me if I wanted to be on their new label that they were creating. I said yes that day, I think, which you shouldn't do. You should probably think about it and ask other people's opinions, but they were nice. And I had some tequila. I probably forgot to mention that the entire span of this story, I've been slowly teaching myself how to DJ because people had been calling me a DJ and I was not one. And it made sense to probably become one if that's what everyone thinks I am anyways. I got asked to play a show on the very last day of 2023, New Year's Eve. Yes. Which would kind of cap off my crazy 2023 in a really fun, performative fashion. So I said yes. And then I got really nervous on the day of, and I had a migraine for like the whole day. But then I went on and I played. and I played into the new year. So like into 2024, which was really cool. Like just a kind of a, I don't know how, it was written. It was poetic, some may say. Thumping EDM into your ears to end the year. Oh yeah, and I met actually a real life Jev fan there in the flesh and blood for the first time. And so I cut my palm and he cut his.
And we exchanged a blood sacrifice.
And with that came the last page of 2023, turned, book closed. And so came 2024, starting with Kyle and Vinny, the Phantoms guys, asking me if I would come to watch them play at the Brooklyn Mirage. And for anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's probably the most iconic venue in the country, definitely in New York City. And I think it also has like the biggest screen or something. Like it's a big screen. Anyways, this was awesome because they said that they would play the song I'd released with them under their label, Speaking Out Loud, live, and I could watch it in front of however many thousands of people were there. They also didn't let me know that when they were playing the song, I wasn't going to be watching it in the crowd. I was going to be standing up there with them on the stage. That was their plan. I was left out of the that description, and then all of a sudden I'm being kind of like ushered toward the side of the stage. There's a security guard kind of like making sure I am who I am. And then they said, listen for your song, and then you can run up during your song and dance, and then run off immediately. I was like, okay, can Mark come with? Because he's like, I had his camera, and I'm like, just come and run on the stage. He's like, okay, and the security guard's like, sure, yes. And we wait, and I wait till I hear my song, and then we, burst out on the stage, and for some reason I run like with my head down, and I kind of, I don't know, it's very weird, and people have commented about how weird it is. I don't know why I did it that way. And I turned out I did not hear my music. I was so nervous, I misheard whatever song was playing and thought it was mine. That's pretty insane if you're a producer to think, because you know exactly when your song is playing because you built the damn thing. So we actually had to squat underneath Kyle and Vinny as they finished that song, and luckily mine came up shortly thereafter. But then I stood up, dapped them up, said thank you and I love you. And we danced for a bit throughout Speaking Out Loud, and I got to look at the crowd and kind of admire it. And Mark got to look through the camera and try and keep his hands steady.
And it was an amazing moment to kind of see your music played out for that many people, one, and then see that people liked it, like in real life. Because I'd had hundreds of thousands of streams at that point, but very little of it actualized. Like I couldn't see any of it, so it was really cool to see people enjoying it, recognizing it, hearing it, and dancing to it. So I guess that's why you make dance music. I hadn't realized up until that point.
I'm sitting here in my humble Brooklyn home with Mark behind the camera now, Anna over there probably hearing this and cringing, and we're still have no money, but we have well over 250,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, millions of streams across the project that we built in my parents' garage, and still going up. Things are changing, things are moving, stuff gets better, stuff gets more stressful, but it's still just as fun as it was when we were doing it and playing Minecraft. And that's my story. So, and also my first YouTube video. This is going to take a lot of work to edit. This is going to be a massive, massive amount of work because I'm talking a lot. Talk too much. Hey, you can buy. Okay, and what else do I need to plug? See You, my new song, is actually coming out April 26th, so it might be out depending on when you're watching this. It's fun. It's like a summery piano, Korg. What the fuck am I saying, dude? Check it out now and subscribe, because this is my first YouTube channel. And that's what we're supposed to say. And that's what YouTubers say, which is what I am now. So, yeah. Bye.